Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Reckoning of Roku chapter analysis video. This one's going to be for chapter 20, which is called Control. Once again, YouTube channel membership is enabled if you want to help support the channel. You can do that by clicking the join button anywhere on the channel, and also subscribing does help. So let's get into this one. Control is a very good kind of title for this chapter because you get to see how in control Sozin always wants to be. When, in this case, they have to hire sandbenders to get to Wan Shi Tong's library. He wants to stay in control of the situation. You see how little he trusts basically everyone around him, and that includes his teammates here, Kozaru and Dalasai. But this is the journey to get to the library. So a little bit of a trip through the desert here, but it's not like a huge thing here. But it's interesting what we do here. So I suppose the first note here is just on his teammate's name, how to pronounce it. Having listened to the audiobook now, the pronunciation is Dalasai. That's what Nancy Wu uses most of the time. Occasionally she does go back and just says Dalasai, which is what I've been saying. But even when the name is shortened to just Dal, so Dal, she says Dal. So Dalasai, I'll just go with that because it's used more often. But anyway, we open up and immediately, okay, they've hired sandbenders to get them to Wan Shi Tong's library, and Sozin immediately is like, yeah, they're gonna rob us, but are they also going to kill us too? So he's immediately suspicious, and I suppose as the audience, we don't think too much of this, because I suppose the sandbenders do have a little bit of a bad reputation, mainly just based off ATLA and what we saw there, of course, but here I guess we're going to see how justified really is it. Was that just like a bad group of sandbenders, or is there kind of more to them? You know, that idea. He notes that, you know, criminals like this are always going to exist while poverty exists. And that basically he, as the future leader of the Fire Nation, hopes to eventually get the Fire Nation to a point where, you know, everyone's doing well. So, you know, criminals don't really almost need to exist. And he kind of compares this to the Earth Kingdom, where this is just this impossible truth in a way of just like that kingdom is never going to be able to care enough for all of its people, whereas the Fire Nation, it's maybe possible. But anyway, so we see how on guard Sozin is. They're going on the sand sailor across the desert to get to the library, and he's immediately kind of keeping Kozaru and Dalasai on guard, that prepare yourselves, they're going to try and rob us, maybe kill us at some point, so be on guard. So they eventually are going to stop at this kind of rock formation up ahead, and it's like, okay, this is fine, they're going to rest, you know, get something to eat. But this is also the most likely spot for them to ambush us. It's way too obvious that this is what's going to happen. So when we get there, Sozin sees all the kind of like shadowy corners here where people could be hiding in wait with knives, swords, daggers, that sort of thing. And he's just super, super suspicious. And he, as they're walking through, you know, he tells Kozaru, okay, you stay here, watch our backs. Me and Dalasai will go on ahead. And then they walk into this kind of like corridor, basically. And he hears footsteps. He knows there's people in the shadows. And he just decides, I'm making my move now so that I don't get got, basically. So he firebends down the corridor, and it reveals 4 sandbenders lying in wait. And obviously this is from Sozin's perspective. So this is what he is seeing and how he's perceiving it, is that he sees 4 sandbenders with swords and daggers. And he and Dalasai jump into action here. So he uses his fire whips to, you know, injure some of these people. Dalasai, you know, takes a few people out, hurts them with her rope dart. And then as they're about to kind of get further into the action, one of the older, the sandbenders, one of them reveals, very old man, is like, please don't hurt my husband. So little detail there of like, okay, a gay couple within the sandbenders. I don't think we'd seen that before. That's interesting. But this causes Sozin to look again at the situation actually playing out in front of him. No one's holding swords. No one's holding daggers. They're holding teacups. These people were actually going to serve them like, food and drink. It was actually a rest stop on the way to the library. And Sozin has completely overthought the situation here. And they've hurt these people for not really any reason. Sure, the situation was looking a little bit sketchy, but, he jumped the gun here is the idea here. And he just says, there's been a misunderstanding. And it says here, he felt bad, but he wasn't about to show it. You really should have told us about your friends. And we get this idea of, okay, that's interesting. No apology there, but where does that come from? And it's very much this line of Fire Lords. They don't apologize. Even when they make mistakes, they don't apologize. And as we cut to the next chapter, we get an example of that with Sozin reflecting on his father. But first, we're here at the library. So what's visible of the library in the Roku era? And we find out that the spire, which in the Aang era, of course, they found a tiny little bit of it poking out of the sand. The rest of the library was covered. Here we see that entire top spire is uncovered, and the sand only goes up to the top of the dome. So they kind of highlight in the text here that in maybe 100 years, the entire place would probably be covered by desert. So nice little kind of continuity note here that, it wouldn't be as covered in the desert here. And he notes the library is real. It's confirmed. I wonder what my father would think. What would Fire Lord Tyso think of this? Would he just, you were wrong? Would he say it? Would he admit to that to his son, apologize to him? But he realizes, no, he would never admit he was wrong, and he certainly would never apologize, especially to his son. At most, he'd have a sour look on his face. And that's really all it is. And it says, which Sozin may still get to see when he returned home and shared a trove of new knowledge that would certainly give the Fire Nation an edge for decades, if not centuries to come. His father may even stop bothering Sozin about his continuing his studies and start giving him some real responsibilities. So that's what he's hoping to accomplish here, even though, he's never going to get everything he wants from his father. But, this could be impressive from Sozin here. But again, we get to the idea of, okay, Sozin actually pays the Sandbenders double what they agreed upon. He still doesn't apologize, because that's not what he does. That's not what the family do, basically. That's not what royalty does. But he gives them this as sort of some sort of an apology. And I'll pay you double for the return trip as well. And that's the situation that we get there. He tells Kozaru and Dalasai to stay with the Sandbenders here. That, as in, he's going to go into the library on his own. And we get confirmation here that he doesn't even trust his own teammates, who he wants on the mission with him, but not to go into the library. Mainly because, as we see here, he doesn't particularly trust Dalasai because she's so intelligent, because she's a scientist. She's too curious. What if she found information that she could use herself? No. The information in the library is going to be mine to possess, mine to control. That's what he's all about. That's what the chapter's called Control. It's Sozin trying to always control these situations because of how little he trusts anyone around him, with the idea from the whole book basically being that the only person he really does trust is Roku. And now that Roku's the Avatar, there's doubts even beginning to come in there. And there's just a real sense of he can't control everything overall. So Dalasai wants to protest, she wants to go in, but Sozin cuts her off. But she just says, remember to look for anything about metallurgy. And he's like, yeah, I know. So he heads in, and it says here, toward his future, which with each step burned brighter than the sun overhead. So this is him, going in. This is his destiny to a certain degree, to get this important information from the library. He's believed in it. He's about to go in here and get the information that he thinks is going to elevate the Fire Nation for generations to come. So hugely important chapter ahead of us with the next Sozin chapter, but an interesting enough setup chapter for now. Sozin makes the mistake of assuming the worst of the Sandbenders and hurts a bunch of people when they were actually just doing what they were paid to do, and actually escorting them through the desert, and just how little he trusts them which is maybe a little bit justified because of the reputation of the Soundbenders. But then his own teammates, who have done nothing but help him, he's like, no, you could do something with the information in there. It's mine. I don't trust you. That's the real kind of problem kind of part of this overall. And you just see that, yeah, this is the issue with the Fire Nation. The second sort of Zoryu made that decision to sort of like do things in the Fire Nation so that the Fire Lord would continue to have more and more power as the generations went on. This was just the way the Fire Lords and princes were destined to kind of turn out, just be like this, setting the stage for what is to come, of course. But yeah, interesting one. Obviously, it's more the next Sozin chapter we're really waiting for, and it's a good chapter, but we'll get there. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this chapter. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.